media assassin, and we are now tuning in at Off the Cuff Radio. My bad, I had the phone on hold. We got K-Rino on the line right now. What's good, man?
How you doing, my brother? How y'all feeling?
What's good, my man? We happy to have you on. It's been about a good 3 to 4 years, so we have a lot of history to catch up on. A lot of things has been happening since we last been on. So tell us what's been going on with you, bro.
Excuse me, yeah, to be honest, man, just work, man. Just a whole lot of work, staying busy. Been blessed to be busy, dropping projects, doing shows. Anything they got to do with music, your big brother been on it, man. So yeah, I'm just thankful that my phone has been ringing real heavy lately.
Man, yeah, man, and I see you doing your thing with the podcast too, man. That's my man T-Max with the facts. This is his first time talking with you, because we had you on last time we had you on, we had Candace Cooper and Ella the Sandman. So we want to introduce you to the table, man.
Man, look, pleasure to meet you, brother. Pleasure to meet y'all, man. Number love.
Definitely, man. Look, a Texas legend. Look, we are so proud. We're so humble to have you back with us, man. I mean, definitely. You know, it's. I mean, the name K-Rino rings bells all over, man. I mean, look.
Man, the honor and the pleasure is mine, brother. Like I say, at this point, as long as I've been doing it, you know, I'm thankful, man. I don't take nothing for granted, and I appreciate everybody who show me love, man. That's just the reality of it.
And you know what, y'all notice another transition that you made since we chopped it up, man. Tell us about the podcast you got going on.
Yeah, man. I would say about 2018, I jumped in the radio, and people were like, man, you do it. I said, nah, I'm not going to do it. Then I called the guy back 5 minutes later, and I decided to go ahead and do it. But it's been cool because the station that I'm with, they give me a chance to express myself without any restrictions. They don't put any holds on me, and I'm able to speak on the things that I believe in and subscribe to. At the same time, before the pandemic, I had opportunities to interview a lot of great artists, man, and that was something that I had never really done. So just being able to talk to some of the greats right here in the city of Houston and people right outside of the city, that just added another element, man, and helped me to discover something that I didn't even know I enjoyed like that. So it's been a blessing, bro.
Yeah, man. One thing about it is, especially for a distinguished and legendary career that you've had, it's definitely special now you can move into another area, you know, because obviously, like you said, you're able to interact with a lot of artists, so you're getting to see it from a journalistic side in reference to their artistic vision and, you know, being able to talk to them about their development. You know, sometimes it can be a little, you know, obscure being an artist, talking to other artists because, you know, you all are kind of in the same place, but now you've added artists and journalists to it. So right. It really brings a more of an added dimension. From the time, Reno, that you have been doing this, what have you discovered in terms of how the music game has changed with artists coming out now, being a journalist, interviewing them about it?
Well, it kind of makes me understand that really we still all go through the same things or have been through the same things no matter what the generations are. I think just what has changed is the way we do it. You know, of course, there was no social media and all that back when I was coming in, but the way we do it is a little different. But as far as the bumps in the road and the dealing with the labels and all that type of stuff, the dirty side of the industry, you know, the newer artists, they go through these same things, man. So, you know, when you talk to artists, whether they are established and been around forever or whether they brand new, you know, you discover that they go through the same stuff, man. So, you know, and you discover how much you can learn from the younger artists. You know, a lot of us older guys, we kind of have a arrogance about ourselves, like we feel like we've been there, done that, and these young people don't have anything of wisdom that they can offer to us, but that's not true. So, you know, you learn how to listen and then pick up things as opposed to being the one that's always running my mouth.
And also, man, when I've been looking at your YouTube channel and everything, I was subscribed to that the other day. I like how you break it down a lot of the different topics that, you know, that we go through as a people.
Absolutely. That's one of my goals. That's really the foundation of my YouTube channel. Like, people say, well, man, what is your channel about? It's about what you just said, and it's about life lessons. I speak on a lot of everyday things that we go through just as regular, everyday people, that not something that everyday people can relate to from an artist standpoint. You know, I'm not going to make a video talking about which car should I drive out of the Bentley or the Phantom today. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to speak on something that relates directly to people's everyday life. And I just call them life lessons. And I hope that, you know, they help people just navigate through, man. I don't care if it's mental health issues. I don't care if it's just dealing with anger, whatever it is. You know, I know I've touched on it at some point to give people a better insight. The same with the music. You know, you make certain songs that people say, well, man, that song really helped me. Now it's just transitioned over to, instead of people saying that song really helped me through a tough time, now they're saying, well, that video you made helped me through a tough time.
Definitely. And how important is it for you, Reno, from that end of being able to, you know, when you started getting into the, you know, podcast game in terms of, you know, taking it to another level, was that your vision from the outset in terms of being able to really branch that audience out to a more relatable context in terms of, because what you said is so important. You know, a lot of times people look at the entertainment industry from one hand, but we forget at the end of the day that we're all people. We all go through situations. We have our ups, our downs, our highs, our lows, our troubles, our trials, our tribulations. From that level, how fulfilling has it been for you? What has been the reaction in terms of you being so genuinely and intimately engaged with people in terms of really bringing a lot of things to the table for real conversation of circumstance?
It's funny because a lot of people who subscribe to my YouTube channel, who kind of catch on, just start getting on my YouTube channel, a lot of them don't even know me from music. They just stumble across a video and they hear me talking about a particular topic, and they relate to that topic, and others, then they subscribe, and then they find out later that, you know, music is my foundation. You know, my diehards, they know, but a lot of people didn't even really know, you know, who I was, and like, who's this guy just giving this advice and these life lessons, and they find out later on, okay, well, you know, he's in the game. So that's been kind of like the funny part to me, but it's also cool because, like I say, we just translated one from the other. You know, a lot of the things I talk about in these videos, a lot of those topics I have covered in my music. So however, you know, you reach the people is a blessing. You know, whatever avenue, whatever road that leads to reaching the people is a blessing, and one would take them to the other. The talks would take them to the music, or the music would just lead them, it would be the foundation that leads them to the talks because they already know.
Yeah. And I think
now, with the type of dialogue that you bring into the mix, with the type of dialogue that you talk about now, when you start getting up there, you know, the analytics start fucking with you a little bit, man. Like, have you ever got through any issues with YouTube and them trying to, you know, censor your content and stuff like that?
Absolutely. That's funny because I made an anti-COVID vaccine video, and they gave me a strike on my channel, and they took me down. They suspended me for a couple of weeks, and then I had a song that I did in 2019, 3 years ago, and they gave me a retroactive strike because this article, this publication out of the UK wrote an article talking about the song called Secret War, and they labeled it racist and anti-Semitic and all these different other BS labels, and YouTube got wind of it, and they struck me again. So I've been suspended a couple of times because of my content, and so I just have learned how to basically say what I'm going to say without saying it. Just navigating through that. Because I'm not going to stop educating the people on what they need to know. You just got to figure out how to use different terminologies, and the people are intelligent enough. They know what you're talking about to get it through. But in the beginning, I was raw. I was just going in on the vaccines and just tearing their head off. And YouTube, they weren't trying to hear that because a lot of their sponsorship and all that, a lot of these companies and these corporations, they are in favor of the vaccine and they back it. So any company like YouTube and others, they don't want anything that's going to come along and anybody who may have a voice. And my channel is small. I'm not getting 500,000, 1 million views on my posts like that, but they just want to eliminate the potential of anything that might throw some salt in the game in terms of, getting their message out.
And I think no matter what anybody's view on it, I think everybody does have a right to express themselves in terms of how they feel. When you look at hip-hop music today, Reno, how do you feel about it in reference to the consciousness, subject matter, how artists are using their platforms in order to, get their message out there in terms of what they feel?
Well, my thing always is that, I just think consciousness has to have a place in the game. It just has to. I don't care what kind of artist you are. I can just remember back in the days, even the people that you would consider to be the most vulgar, the most raunchiest artists, they would always have at least one song where they was dropping some knowledge or spitting some consciousness, or they would find themselves involved in this struggle or in this fight that forced them, regardless of what they talked about, sex, drugs, money, whatever it is, that they would have to jump on board with that cause. I think a lot of our younger artists got to kind of get a feel of that and not get so caught up in, how much money I can get by doing it this way or that way, and recognize the bigger picture and recognize the powers that allow them to put out certain types of music. See, we got to look and say, okay, well, why do they let us release this kind of music where we can call women B's and H's and all that, and that's fine. We can put that out all day long. But again, if I speak about something that I feel is detrimental to people, or if I just disagree, even if a person feels like, okay, well, we just disagree on if this is good or bad, but I can't even express my side of it without being, censored or without being just all out blackballed. So it's no balance, and it's always been like that. But these days, the artists have more control than they think, and with the internet, it's equalized and leveled the playing field to where it's like, man, if we really just put our foot down and just mash the gas, we don't even really need the labels. But we get caught up in that old way of thinking like, man, I got to get this deal, and all deals ain't good deals.
That's true. And one thing about it, like you said, with social media now, with the way technology has advanced itself, either making videos or even having that guerrilla-style warfare of the do-it-yourself aesthetic, it's enabled I don't think a lot of artists across the board know how powerful their potential is to really, really get out there and push it themselves. But we also know while entrepreneurship is excellent, it's sexy, it's alluring in terms of having that sense of independence. It's also tricky because you really have to know that you have an audience that's going to patron, your product. Some artists feel like being with a big machine in terms of getting with a label, that's going to provide the marketing, the financial muscle, the presence that it
does a lot of the legwork.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, King. Yes, exactly.
Well, and I understand that, because when you don't have when you haven't been through the, I would say the boot camp, like I can speak as being a Southern artist. We came up at a time where the major labels wouldn't check in for us at all. They were like, man, we ain't got time. You dealing with these old country dudes. They didn't have nothing to do with us. But so what that made us do, it made us start to put that grind down ourselves. So now we out there putting the posters up on the telephone poles. We out there passing out the flyers hand to hand. We go into the record stores, meeting with the retail managers and making the phone calls. We in vans traveling from city to city to promote and market ourselves. So we did all that work because we had to, but all that was doing was teaching us the industry. We didn't really look at it like that then, but we was learning the game. So we went through independent distribution companies that would put our records out regionally, and as opposed to making 25 cents per unit, we was making $8 a unit. So we learned the game. And I think the younger artists, and I don't always want to say young, but just newer artists, they if they didn't have to go through that, then they don't even know that that's an alternative, or like you just said, they don't really want to put that groundwork in, so they let the label do everything, not understanding that everything that the label does for you, they're going to get that back from you. So exactly. The money they spent, that promotion budget, that marketing budget, that studio time, that video, all that stuff they did on the front end, they getting that money back on the back end. So when your check comes, you looking at your check funny, like, man, hold on, man, this ain't right. Yeah, it's right, because that's called recoupable income. Right. So we got to just learn that business aspect. I always tell people, if you can do it yourself, do it yourself. But if you're the one that's doing it yourself, then of course the pressure and the load is going to be on you. That's just the way of the world. But at the end of the day, the reward is going to be for you too, man. So that's how I look at it.
Especially when now with the labels aren't really doing 2/3 of their job anymore and taking more of the money. So you figure, hey, I might as well go independent.
Man, come on now. Come on.
And it's wild to see, because it's, it's like King said, everybody, where it was supposed to be the motivation to sign in terms of, like you said, they don't even really pick up the legwork anymore. When we look at how the game has changed, when we see back in the day where an artist was signed to a deal, but, in terms of the tour money, even merch money for those back in the day who had it, that was yours. And now artists are making, artists are basically, it's mandatory. Artists have to sign these 360 deals with a label where they get everything that you do.
The 360 is worse now, because that ain't only just they taking the touring, they taking their movie money, they taking merch, everything.
Well, and that's because what happened was when we went through that little stretch where actual physical copies were not selling the way they used to sell. We can remember, we old enough to remember when an album could sell 2 million units. In some cases, man, this dude sold 10 million records. Physical copies with 10 million actual people walked inside a store, pulled out actual money and bought the record. So that was good. That was gravy for the labels at that time, because, again, they were only paying cents on the dollar per record sale. So now when artists start to get a little control and start to take control of their art, and physical copies are not moving like they used to, the labels had to figure out a way to still get a piece of the action from these artists who were wising up, who were saying, man, you know what, I'm not just going to be a rapper. Give me a clothing line now. I'm not just going to be a rapper. I'm going to be in movies. I'm going to do this. I'm going to have merchandise. So the labels, part of the stipulation was, like you said, hey, man, we just want to make a deal to where we're not only getting a portion of your sales, we're getting a piece of everything that you are, and in an artist's desperation to get put on, guess what he going to do? He going to sign. He going to take that 360 deal, and again, you don't feel the impact of it until the money starts coming in, and then you're not making what you feel you're supposed to be making. It's like, oh, man, because back in the day, it was an old term, and you just said it. It was an old saying that used to go, that show money is your money. You know, the labels didn't get a piece of that. When you went on tour, that's how you made your bread. Even after being on the label, even after your deal was done, if you got hit records, man, you could eat for the rest of your life just touring, you know. But they changed the game, man, because they want a piece of that action because the industry wasn't, you know, selling a lot of physical copies.
And what is your opinion, Reno, about the state of physical copies today in terms of where we saw it was the thing, then digital kind of came in and began to make it obsolete, but now we're kind of seeing the physical copies steadily in spurts coming back again. How important is that for people to touch, you know, that real, you know, album, to really understand the work that went into it, to read the liner notes, to read the production credits, everything about it?
I'm old school, so it's really important to me. You know, I love it, just like you said, to read the liner notes and know who produced what song and, you know who this feature is. You know, that's how we came up. That's how we learned who other artists were. That was a form of marketing, you know, like what Master P used to do. When Master P would drop an album, he would put his artists, upcoming artists' album covers inside of his cover, so you would see what's coming next. And that automatically gave an artist a springboard to, like, okay, I'm automatically selling gold at least simply because this Master P album just went platinum. You know, so now I'm getting a million sets of eyes on what I got going on. So it's real important. But I do believe that everything comes back around. You know, I remember a time they were trying to get rid of vinyl altogether. They were like, oh, man, no more vinyl, no more vinyl. And then the DJs was like, nah. And then vinyl came back. You know what I'm saying? Vinyl made a comeback. And I've been hearing that the same is happening with CDs. You know, it's like people are starting to, you know, push back. So, you know, I like to have a physical copy because it's a more intimate connection with that artist, like you said. But, you know, in this instant microwave type of world that we live in, people are just happy with getting a Spotify subscription and just streaming it, or, you know, just they don't care who did what. So you got to adjust to the game as an artist and just navigate through it the best you can. And also, you got to be able to cover all the bases as an artist. You know, don't be a dinosaur the way you feel like, well, man, you know what, I'm gonna keep doing it my way. And then if your way becomes 100% obsolete, then you obsolete with it.
Yeah.
And you know what's wild, man? While we talking about history, we talking about this, we want to also talk about the South Park Coalition and how you guys are possibly one of the most underrated groups in hip-hop, man. I mean, you guys have an elite team, like yourself, Murder One, Gangsta Nip, the homegirl Cliche, big shout out to her, one of the most outspoken guests we ever had, but very 100, PSK 13. Like, you guys been together since '86, and you guys have any like a reunion tours or reunion albums in the work?
Yeah, we do it all the time. We did a 20-year reunion, I think in 2007, and we did a 25-year reunion, then we did a 30. This year is the 35-year anniversary of South Park Coalition, and we got a show coming up in September that we're doing, and we just bring everybody out. It's like a family reunion, bro. You know, and like you say, all those names you mentioned, you know, always in attendance. We perform, we do our thing. So yeah, it's been a blessing, man, and it's like you say, being one of the first rap cliques, you know, definitely to come out of the South, but really in the game, period, just a group of guys like that, you know, we can't say we are the first, but we among, you know, that amount, that number. So it's a blessing, and we got an established fan base that's been rocking with us, some from day one, and more adding on every single day and every year. So, you know, we grateful, man. We blessed. People say, you know, y'all are underrated, y'all are underappreciated, and that might be true to a degree. But to those who love us and those who show us love, we don't even look at it like that. We look at it like, okay, if y'all know us and y'all love us, then we here.
And that's a blessing to be able, like you said, to be doing it after all this time and whatnot, especially in a genre, that doesn't always celebrate the legends and tries to say, well, such and such is too old. I'm like, well, they never tell rock and roll stars, they never tell country singers, they never tell pop singers they're too old to perform. Why is it only hip hop where they're going to tell somebody after a certain age you're not viable, you're not relevant anymore? I think it's ridiculous. You all are the foundation, the cornerstones of which this is built. The longevity that you rightfully achieved with your professionalism, your persistence, dedication, and determination are the tenets of what the culture means. And you all lead by example with what you all have done to inspire the next wave.
Yeah, you know what? I'll say this.
Go ahead.
I think that narrative is starting to change a little bit too, because you're right. There was a time where they would try to put an age limit on rappers and say, well, man, you too old to be rapping. But I can just remember years ago, I just was sitting around and I was like, man, wait a minute, they saying this stuff, but at the time, all of the top rappers in the game was late 30s and 40s, at that time. Now they late 40s and 50s. So it's not about, it's all about the skill level. That's what everything is centered around. It's about the skill level. And now a lot of those same artists who may have been saying that stuff, who may have been feeling that way, now they're in their mid-30s. So they got to get an understanding.
Right.
Like, wait a minute. Okay, now I'm 35 and I'm still doing it. I'm still relevant. So they kind of, I think they kind of understood how foolish that was to say, and even the fan base, because now, since rap has kind of moved into different generations now, you got different generations of rap. You can break this thing down the same way they do in R&B. It could be an old school rap tour, or old school rap concert come to town, and people and fans from that generation will attend those shows. So we're still here, and there's still a place for us. And there are young people just like when we was young, and we discovered music that had been out before our time. We discovered Isley Brothers. We discovered Frankie Beverly and Mays and stuff that had been out when we was children. We fell in love with that. I think that'll happen in hip-hop, too, where younger people, man, say, man, let me go listen to this Rakim and see what he talking about. My daddy been talking about this Rakim dude. Let me see what he talking about. And I think they'll start to, fall in love with that as well, man. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and when you talk about being still doing it, I mean, you look at Jay-Z and Pusha with what they just dropped with Neck and Wrist. It's like Jay-Z's were going to be 52, 53 this year. Pusha's 44, and the song is bananas in terms. I think it's always a great thing when you see legends like that do it, because there has been accumulation of a rhyme acumen. The artistry has been accelerated. Everything has aged to experience that, is the expertise, which leaves for an excellent articulation. I mean, when you're in it for a long time, you become a vet. And when you become a veteran, it makes you savvy in the, academics of it.
That's right.
So I'm never going to look at an elder and tell them that, it's time for you to quit. No, only when you're ready to hang it up. But obviously, you get to be an elder because you understood what it took of getting there in reference to, like I said, persistence and making the right decisions along the way in terms of not only, the songs you put out, but how you handled your business with those songs. When you look at the game today, Rino, how do you feel about artists in terms of where now there's a lot of shenanigans that seem to take the place of real artistry? Because obviously it's changed a whole lot from when we all came up as you being an artist and as us being fans of you and everybody else in terms of how we saw artists act and what's going on today.
Yeah, what it is, in my opinion, I think that the record labels push that type of movement because they want to do anything they can to sell records. So if an artist has a particular social media presence or personality or character that they kind of have created through social media, then they may translate that over into the music, or a particular culture might get pushed and promoted, like the gang culture, the violence, and the drug head culture. All of these things, they transfer over to the music. Now we making songs about this stuff, and the young people are mimicking what they're hearing, So, and a lot of the younger artists, that's why a lot of our younger brothers, unfortunately, are getting murdered because at 20, 22 years old, because they're it's life. Art imitates life, but now life is starting to imitate what's been spoken about in the art in a lot of cases. So I just think that we have to use our brains, man. I don't care if you're 18, 19 years old. I don't let people use that as an excuse to not have common sense. Well, he didn't know no better. Yeah, certain things that you can say that a young person doesn't know any better, but the other things, man, where we absolutely do, So, I give them more credit than what the world gives them. We just got to be smarter, man, and understand that it's a bigger enemy that capitalizes off of us, even in death, because if one of these young brothers get murdered out in the streets, their record sales go through the roof the next day or throughout that week. And who benefits from that? The labels benefit from that. So we got to know that we're being used, and that it's an assembly line type of mentality by these labels that feel like, man, you know what, okay, we made a little money off old boy, but if he gets bumped off, it's easy to get another one to sign on. It's another one out in the street somewhere that they can do the same thing, and we just recycle that and make that money off of them forever.
And I think that goes hand in hand with, Black Pain being the most profitable. Even when we look and we talking about this whole thing with Will Smith and Chris Rock. Now, it made a good punchline for the social media, but now we're starting to see the snowball effect and how it's looking bad on both sides of the spectrum, because as you see today, Will Smith done lost his opportunity to be a part of the Academy, and he's been suspended for 10 years, and Chris Rock, he pretty much got emasculated, so it's really no win in this situation.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, bro. And one of the biggest things that it split the black community down the middle. It created a division among us, because there were people who were saying, well, Will did the right thing. He defended his wife. And there are other people who are saying, well, it was just a joke. He doesn't have a right to get up there and hit that man behind it. So, and then even a third angle to where people are turning into psychologists and psychiatrists, where they start to try to break down the mentality of Will and Jada and Chris, and, well, he's broken, she's this, she's that. So it just divided us on so many levels because of our opinions about a situation that none of us are really intimately close to outside of just what we saw with our own eyes. So even the people who say that it's fake, it's staged. So it's so many different angles to look at it from. But you're right, at the end, it's another example of black suffering being something that's, number one, a source of entertainment, and at some point a source of profit, and a source of degenerating us and bringing us down and making us to look bad before the world. So everything we talking about, bro, is just more examples of how we have to recognize who the real enemy is, and the real enemy is not each other. So everything we talk about just speaks to that.
Absolutely. And when you look at how we people talk about critical race theory, it's not a theory. in terms of what it is, because we know in terms of American history what has happened to black people. So we know about institutionalized racism. We know about segregation. We know about the lynchings. This is not a theory. Am I bashing critical race theory? No, I'm not. What I'm saying is they've given it a name to something that is, because the theory is a hypothesized thesis until it has been validly verified. We know what goes on. I said all that to say when we look at slavery, because you still have people who say, well, slavery was all these years ago. Why can't y'all get over it? People don't understand the psychological aspects of what slavery did to the black community in terms of separation and the kinship that it destroyed. And we see this even today with I'm not going to say rap music is a cause of violence, because violence has been part of this nation ever since it was founded. But when you have the issues with black people in terms of how they act on those problems they have with each other, there is a savagery that is just unparalleled. It's like we don't care. Like, this dude did something, we got to handle it. Whether we're going to shoot somebody or whether somebody, like Chris said something, and then we'll act it on it. It's like sometimes we just go off of reaction because we really don't think about it. And people wonder why we are vehemently about preserving our history in terms of talking about these situations, because we have to look at what happened then to understand the situation we are now as to how we still, I'm kind of lost for words saying it, but I want to articulate the fact that we still need to have that conversation about how we deal with each other as people.
It's also letting us, right, it's also allowing us, since, we're very vocal and we partake in the culture, that we could bring a great analyst point in comparison to people that are using this for division or using this for clout chasing purposes, because I see a lot of people using a lot of jokes and stuff like that. So that's why it's on us to bring it home and let people know that there's no wins in this. Like, we're more divided more.
Right. When you have people that in control, people that run this world, they, on some levels, they know the history of what was done to black people more than what black people know it. See, because they have been the main ones who hid that history all these years. That's why when we were growing up, it was certain things that were not a part of the curriculum as it related to history. It's like, even in what they call Black History Month, they only presented to us what they would label as the safe black people, the unthreatening black people. We didn't start hearing about certain black people who was really, really real with it till we was grown. We was already out of school. I never heard of Nat Turner before I graduated from high school. You see? So the people who control, the same people who told us that we couldn't read or write during the time of slavery because they wanted to hide that identity from us, they're still in control today. So when we talk about critical race theory and all that, they understand, because that some people will call it white guilt, but I don't know necessarily if a lot of them feel guilt. It's just more so we don't want to be exposed for our role in history and our role in what was done to black people. So they're going to remove what they label as critical race theory, and they'll say, well, no, because they don't want other white children to feel bad. And nah, you just don't want the truth to get out. That's what it all boils down to. But we have to be the ones to emphasize the learning of that history to our own children, to our own people, because we now have access to it. So, and if our children can, at 2 and 3 years old, pick up an iPhone and start going through it and activating games and all that stuff at 2 and 3 years old, there's no excuse why they can't learn that history, why we can't instill in them who we really are and what we did and how rich our history is. So they'll have that sense of pride and not be able to have an inferiority complexes imposed on them on any level, school or anywhere else.
Absolutely, Reno. And when we think about where the music is, where films are at, you know, King's 37, I'm 44. We grew up in an era where we really saw black culture come into its own. I mean, we had our gangster movies like Menace to Society and Boys in the Hood, but we also had movies like Malcolm X, you know, and Rosewood, you know, that told the real history of it. I mean, when you look at the situation with, like you said, Reno, about the history, like with Nat Turner, I mean, people don't know about Toussaint Louverture. No disrespect to my Haitian brothers and sisters. A lot of people feel like the problems in Haiti, you know, that have been going on, you know, going back to Papa Doc Duvalier, you know, and then his son Baby Doc and everything that's been, all the instabilities that happening in Haiti. A lot of people say that's the world punishment that Haiti was given because Napoleon Bonaparte was one of the greatest generals ever in world history. And you had a black man, Toussaint Louverture, that basically drove the French out of Haiti. You know, that's how Haiti achieved its independence, you know.
Right.
But you have a lot of people who feel that Haiti has been punished because of that. Then you have, of course, you know, Medgar Evers. You know, you know, it's so many. You know, you have James Chaney, Andrew Schwimmer. I mean, I think and if I butcher the names, my apologies. The three guys and three young men that were murdered in Mississippi. You know, that was the foundation for the movie of Mississippi Burning.
Right.
You know, you know, so these are things that when we look at America and what has been going on, you know, we can't hide it. You know, it's been going on.
Yeah, you know, like I say, America is a parasitic nation. You know, they just suck the blood out of all of the other nations of the world. You know, and Africa's no different, Haiti's no different. You know, different places around the world, the so-called Middle East, all those areas that contain resources are places that the United States are gonna sink their teeth into and try to bleed those resources. So, you know, the thing is, we did have that balance that you spoke about when you talked about some of the movies, you know, may have had a negative push to them, but a lot of them had a positive push. It's the same with the music, you know. We would hear positive music on the radio, rap music on the radio back in the days, and that kind of would offset a lot of the negativity that was in a lot of the music as well. So, I mean, but it's reached a point now today where the ratio of negative to positive is so in favor of the negative that it's tough for our young people to be fed anything that's beneficial to them mentally because it's an agenda. You know, it's meant to be that way. You know, when you hear, like you hear Dr. Wesley Muhammad talks about the weaponization of hip-hop music, you know, it all goes back again to these labels and to these so-called powers that control everything. They are using the very thing, the very art form that we love in its pure form. They've taken it and weaponized it to where they've turned it against us. So now we use it for the wrong reasons, bro. And I tell people, I mean, it's not an accident. This is all intentional. So the quicker we learn that, then I believe the quicker we can start to say, well, man, I'm not going to spend so much time focusing on this person that I call my op, this person that's my enemy, this person that's my rival, because I've discovered who the real op is. You know, so I mean, it's a process that didn't happen overnight, and unfortunately, it's not going to be corrected overnight.
Yeah, I think too. When you talk about when they find out who the real op is, that's why there's a lot of. I think when they find out who the real op is, they're looking at it like, I don't know, man. I'm going to have to, wave the white flag, or I have to really get my money right, because the real op could really end my whole career. So I'm going to go ahead and focus on my backyard.
That's a great point. Because there's a fear of, like I say, I always say the so-called powers, that they instill that fear, because it's just like when you see, like back in the days when we used to just joke around. You may talk about somebody in the hood, and they say, "Oh man, watch that. He crazy, man. That boy crazy. He crazy." And then you see him just acting a fool. Then the police show up, and all of a sudden he not crazy no more. You see what I'm saying? So it's selective in a lot of cases. So again, but the good thing about it is that this particular generation that we dealing with, when you talk about those youngsters that's 12, 13, all the way up to 20, 25, they don't have that same fear of the police, and they don't have the same fear of government and judicial system that a lot of people from our generation and before that had. They just built a little differently. So that's why the guidance got to come in. That's why the knowledge got to come in, because if you channel that fearlessness that they have in the right direction, that's what's going to take the system down, But there are still some that had that thought of like, man, well, no, I don't know how we can attack that. How can we approach that? I ain't scared, but how can we do it? But it's people that can teach them how to do it. They just got to be willing to do it and stop focusing on, like you say, the neighborhood. This nigga over here did this. This nigga owe me $30, and the petty stuff. When you got these devils they ain't worried about $30. They messing around with 30 million, 30 billion. They money laundering and stealing on high levels. So we just got to raise our antenna and our consciousness up to get on that level to like, look, we're going to play this game. We're going to play this game for keeps, and we're going to fight the real enemy, not ourselves.
Yep. And it's a bigger picture out there. I think a lot of artists have to understand, when I look at what's going on, I'm part of it just like King's part of it, just like you're part of it. Collectively, I mean, when I look at the fashions, when I look at the music, I'm like, this isn't what we grew up listening to. This isn't what we grew up wearing. And it's like you said, Reno, the weaponization of the music, it's like certain elements, it just makes us, where do you think we started to lose control of the industry in terms of us having the voice and directing the culture?
Well, it happened a long time ago, and the tie-in, there's a direct tie-in to the prison industrial complex where people tend to separate. Okay, you got rap music, you got the streets, and you got crime, you got the prison industrial complex. They separate those things when in reality they're all tied in together. So we hear about this secret meeting that the label executives had with those who were trying to establish prisons, and they had to create a system that would funnel black people from the streets into the prisons, from the school into the prison. That's why they call it the school-to-prison pipeline. And one of the main ways that they were confident they would be able to do that is through the music, through gaining control of the subject matter, like we spoke about earlier, to where we take the direction off of consciousness and we lean it towards doing dope, we lean it towards shooting and killing, and when that type of music starts to be prevalent, then all of a sudden, again, life starts to imitate art. Because how will we know so much about Pop and Molly if a rapper didn't make a song about it? How will we know so much about this type of gun or this type of drug if a rapper didn't make a song about it and that song was allowed to be played on the radio? That song was played in the clubs, and so now it creates a culture of death. And when it creates that culture, you either finna go to jail for selling it, you either finna go to jail for using the gun that killed somebody, And all of those things feed into that system, feed into that machine, and it's tied together. So that's where we lost control at, bro. We lost control when we let the enemy take control of the art form that started in the streets when they had no idea that it's like a child being born. And you mess around and get somebody pregnant. You don't know she's pregnant. She don't even know she's pregnant till a little while later, till the symptoms start to kick in. You know, so that's how hip-hop was. It was like these cats that take an interest in hip-hop now because it's $1 billion industry, they didn't know what was going on in the beginning. They didn't even care. They thought it was just going to be some BS that come and go. But once they see that was a way to profit, okay, now we're going to get in on this profit. And then once they saw how we can add this to contributing to our agenda of depopulating black people, kill two birds with one stone. We can make them kill ourselves and make money off of them.
First, I noticed too when I said a couple weeks ago, and knowing how with what's going on with the world, I was thinking, man, where is this era's fight the power? I'm not talking about from you guys. I'm talking about from people that's in that within the current market. Like, where's the awareness? You know what I'm saying? Because these cats, you would think there is no pandemic out there. There is no wars going on out there. There is no inflation. Everybody still, you would think it's still 1998. Cash money running to 99. You know what I'm saying?
Right. We'll never see. Let me say this: artists like a Public Enemy, X-Clan, BDP, those types of artists. If artists like that did come along, they'll never see the light of day on the level that they saw it back in the 80s and the 90s. Because again, the industry caught on. They caught on because we speak a language through hip hop that they don't understand. They don't understand the words in a lot of cases. So there are a lot of the things that slid under the radar that we were saying on the radio that they didn't know what it meant. So they were like, well, this old hippity hop, we don't know what he's saying, but yeah, it's selling records and it's getting so. But now they kind of up on that, and they're not gonna let that type of power come through anymore, because now they have watchmen. They have people that are looking for those type of artists. They looking at the fan base. Even if it's a guy just coming up, they looking and say, okay, well, this dude got a small following. Let me see what he's talking about. Oh, he's one of them. He could be the next one to change this thing and change the minds of the people. We're not going to let him see the light of day. He'll never get a record deal. You know, and if he does get a record deal, it will be because we have somehow persuaded him to capitulate, to change up. We dangled the fruit in front of his face and we said, hey, look, man, you can get this money. And if you're able to take his focus off of the mission and put his focus strictly on the money, then you can water him down. But those who won't be watered down, they're not going to even let him get in the first place. See, back in the days when they had the counterintelligence program in the FBI, and J. Edgar Hoover and all those cats was running that thing, one of the sentences in their basically their mission statement was, it said, we want to prevent the rise of a black messiah. So that meant that they had their eyes on certain people. They actually mentioned certain people that could be candidates as being that one next black person to come up and galvanize black people together and overthrow them. So they do the same thing in music. They looking at, ain't gonna be no more Chuck D's. Nah, not on that level. You know, he ain't waking these niggas up. You know, so it's all systemic. People will argue and say, oh no, man, it's just like you said earlier, it's just conspiracy theory, but it's all systemic.
Yep, and when you think about it, man, when you look at COINTELPRO, a lot of people have to understand. I mean, this is, you know, even though it was later on, you know, Huey Newton was killed. I mean, you figure the Black Panther movement basically was broken from the inside. I mean, you think of every black leader, you know, that was coming to promise. I mean, Dr. King, when you look at the situation, the mysterious circumstances about how that happened, you know, I mean, because, you know, one thing about everybody, you know, everybody points to the picture, you know, from the infamous picture of Memphis when he was shot, you know, and they're pointing to the shooter, and then they're, you know, everybody's question is, rightfully so, who took the picture? You
right.
know?
Right.
You know, so it's a lot that's going on, you know. And
they have a...
Is it talking about... Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, bro. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, I was going to say, in regards to your music, man, like, do you have any new material in the works?
Yes, sir, man. My most recent one was a record I released called A Blessing and a Burden. That's available now. You know, physical copies are on SouthParkCoalition.net, and of course, all of the digital sites you can get it as well. But I'm working on some new stuff right now, and I haven't decided yet if it's going to be a double album or just one single album, because I got a lot of material, man. So it may not be able to be covered on one project, and I'm looking at maybe early June for the release on that. So y'all be looking for that.
Yes, indeed, man. And there's another question I wanted to shoot to you too, man. And this is one of the reasons why I brought you on the show, was because you possibly is what I would consider our favorite rapper's favorite rapper. And people don't understand how far your pedigree goes in regards of your contribution to the culture. Like, we've seen people such as Crooked Eye, Chino XL, Cannabis. A lot of people praise you for not only your lyrical acumen, but also the science that you bring to the table and your work consistency. And with Bun B having this badge, did it make you feel sort of way that you wasn't part of that card, or you just took it as a appreciation of what he's done?
No, I didn't. A lot of people was upset. A lot of people in my circle was upset. And a lot of my fan base reached out and they was upset. But I didn't take it like that at all, because I looked at the big picture, you know, and the big picture to me was nothing like that had ever been done in the city of Houston, and especially on that platform, which is the rodeo, which, if anybody, you know, just if you don't really know the magnitude of the rodeo down here in Houston, it's huge. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
So even the entertainment aspect of it, it's never been something that hip hop has been included in on just a big scale. Every now and then they'll sneak a couple of rappers in there here and there, and it's mostly going to be mainstream artists. But for them to, for whatever reason, you know, because I don't put any weight or any trust or any love to the entities that allowed Bun and those guys to be a part of it, because all they care about is the money. But by whatever means it happened, it was still good for the culture in the city of Houston, because you talk about 73,000 people coming out to see that event. And even the clips that I watched of the event, I'm watching a whole city in unity in that moment, and they're going back through the history of all those great artists, because, you know, of course you got Bun B, of course you got Lil Flip, but you also got ESG, you know, you got Lil Kiki, you got Zero, you got Ronnie Spencer, you got Willie D, you got all these different elements that basically brought the city together, that made the city what it is. So I was happy for them, because me knowing all of them brothers, see, it's not like these are just people that, I see from a distance. These people I've been knowing 25, 30 years. So, and we come from the same struggle in this game. We come from the same place. So for me to see them up there, as crazy as it might sound, I still felt like, okay, well, yeah, man, they repping for all of us that's not up there. Now, for whatever reason that I may not have been reached out to, or Point Blank may not have been reached out to get on it, hey, that's something that we can't control, you know. But I don't begrudge nobody's opportunities, and hey, man, I was glad to see my brothers up there. And they did a great show with no violence, no problems, no issues, because if something like that would have happened, oh, man, that would have threw a black eye in the game. That would have just been a whole decapitated head. Forget a black eye. So I was grateful that it went through without a hitch, but I was also proud of my boys that they went up there and did their thing. But all that being said, yeah, it was people in my circle that was pissed off. You know, they didn't like that at all. But hey, man, we can't trip on that.
Yeah, and that's good, especially with the whole debacle what happened with Travis Scott and that whole incident.
Exactly.
The city of Houston needed a good look.
Exactly. And the artists you naming, now remember what we talked about earlier in this conversation. We talked about the significance and the relevance of the older rappers. See? So what you had in that case, all those guys I named, Bun B, late 40s. You got Zero, Kiki, Pokey, Flip, all these guys in their 40s, man. So the crowd, the age demographic that's out there to support them are in that same bracket. So you got mamas and daddies and granddaddies and grandmothers out there who grew up on this music. These are the individuals who were at this concert for the most part. So these are people who were settled in. They ain't out there fighting and and acting crazy and all that. So it was a good look to me, man. I saw most of the clips and I enjoyed it, man. I was happy to see him do it. Now that being said, I don't ever want people to think that whoever was in charge of the entertainment aspect of the rodeo itself, I don't want the artists who performed or any of the fans to think that they did that out of some great love that they had. This was a business decision, and it looked like it worked out for all parties. So it's all good.
Yeah, man, and that was a definitely good look, man, because I actually did a video about this the other day about how our imagery, like the black man image, is being attacked by the media. We mentioned Kanye West, we mentioned Will Smith, we mentioned Russell Wilson, and anybody that's a rapper that does something in the moment, that's a figure. That's the face of the week for that matter. So with that event going down like it did, and just like you said, no violence, no anything of that caliber, that was a beautiful thing for the culture. It needed that.
Right, absolutely, man, absolutely. Like I said, we can go into the politics and all that, but nah, man, I mean, anything that boosts the morale of the city, and for that one night, that one little moment, people were together. People were all in the crowd. You could hear the whole crowd singing the songs with the artists. I mean, I can't find nothing wrong in that, man. And everything. And see, and plus, I simplify matters at the same time when it comes to stuff like that, man. I'm a believer in God. I'm a believer in a higher power, and I believe that whatever's meant for an individual to have, that individual is going to have it. If it's not meant for you to have it, then it's not yours. It's not yours. So in that moment, that wasn't something that the Creator had for us to be a part of. It just wasn't. So we can't lament that after the fact. We just have to accept that, hey, it is what it is, and we keep working towards our big stage. Keep working towards our whatever that reward is going to be. It ain't nothing to be upset about.
Absolutely. When you think about your place in hip-hop history, especially Texas, how does it feel to just be such a distinguished legend and the legacy that you have built and are still, building, and the legacy after you're gone that you've left behind, which is going to be distinguished and decorated? How do you feel?
Bro, I'm blessed, bro. That's the best way I can. I don't, I know everything that I did to get to wherever it is I am, and I know it came from the mud. It came straight from the mud. Just hard work and learning on the fly, trial and error, making a bunch of mistakes, correcting a bunch of mistakes, having a lot of wins to offset all of the losses. So I'm just thankful, bro. I'm thankful because, you know, I live a life that a lot of people would love to live. You know, I don't work for nobody. I don't have to get up at a certain time and operate on somebody else's clock and them telling me what to do and when I need to be here and all that. I don't have that. That's not my life. You know, my gift has afforded me the opportunity to live my life the way I want to live it. So even if people may say, well, man, I don't really know. I don't know. I never heard of you, or people who may hear say, well, you know, I don't, you know, he's not as big a name as this guy and all that. It don't matter because the same thing that you could say about one of those types of artists, you could say the same thing about me, just maybe on a smaller scale if you're trying to just equate it financially. You see what I'm saying? If you're trying to just equate it from a standpoint of popularity and being known, you know, but as far as the principles of it, just the bare principles of it, I'm right there with them and ahead of them in some cases because I have a freedom that a lot of those artists don't have because when you are tied into that machine, it's certain things you can't say. It's certain things you can't do. It's certain people you can't even be seen with. You know, in terms of our own culture and our own people, you know, they'll tell you, well, man, I heard you, I saw you in a picture with Farrakhan. You know, well, what's up with that? See, can't nobody check me like that. You know, so in some instances, I got a freedom that a lot of those cats don't enjoy. So, hey, I'm thankful, bro. That's all I can say.
And that's an interesting intake too, man, because when they take a picture with the minister, man, them dudes get Quakered in their boots. Pictures get erased within seconds.
Instantly. And see, and that's the thing. And see, and the sad part is that a lot of those brothers, they love the minister. They stand with the minister in secret, but they know because of the bed that they lay in and who they lay in that bed with, they know that they can't publicly express support for the minister because it's going to affect their bottom line. And like you say, they get canceled quicker than a bad TV show. So they have a decision that they have to make. In a lot of cases, they make that decision, but it eats at them on the inside because it questions it makes them question their own integrity. It's a hit to their own integrity. I don't suffer from that. Nobody can tell me. I wish somebody would tell me to not talk about the minister, to not praise the minister and give him accolades. And I wish somebody would. You know, it's a beautiful freedom to have, and not just the minister. It could be just a black cause. Period. You could just speak out against police brutality and do it in the wrong way. You could speak out against the industry and do it in the wrong way. And I got wrong in air quotes, wrong according to them. If you say, well, man, I don't like the way, like we talked about the 360 deal, I don't like the way the industry manipulates these artists and takes the majority of their money. That's not right. You'll get canceled for that. Okay, well, if you don't like the way we do it, we're going to take this deal back. You know, an athlete, professional athlete, you can't stand up for these causes because you make $25 million a year. I'll pay you. This Jewish man pays you $25 million a year. See, I don't deal with that. I ain't got to deal with that. You know, because I know me. If I was on those levels, I'd lose it all overnight because my mouth gonna open. You know, so it's you don't get something for nothing when you deal with the high level devils. You don't get something for nothing. They'll give you all those riches. They'll give you all, but it's a price to pay. At the end of the day, at some point, you're going to be called to pay that price. You know, so it is what it is, man.
Yeah, and that's the most important thing, to maintain your integrity in the game. And we see, you know, we hear stories, Reno. You know, we don't know what really goes on. We have an idea. Well, we know a lot of times that, like anything in terms of certain artists, how they get on. I mean, we go to Hollywood, out of Hollywood. I mean, we look at the situations that was going on with Weinstein, how he was sexually assaulting all those women. And, you know, for a long time, it just got to the point that what he was doing got so out there to where they couldn't cover it up anymore. And, you know, he's in prison for it. But it's like, you know, when we look at us, especially being black people, we're more vulnerable, a lot of us, because of where the circumstances we come from, that, you know, we don't have this thing. Our complexion is going to be the complex. It's going to be more difficult for us. And a lot of times you have the powers that be are going to try to take advantage of the fact we are inherently disadvantaged in our social strata in terms of how we are portrayed where we come from, where the prime target is. You know, one thing about it is you cannot sell your soul because once you've done it, there's no price on integrity and there is no price on self-worth. Once you show you are able to be bought off, then that's when they realize, well, that's when you have to understand your number is going to be up at a certain level in the worst way.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. That's a fact. They're gonna test everybody. They're gonna try everybody. They're gonna try the hardest of the hard among us. They just gonna find out that some of us gonna be like, nah, I ain't doing that. You can keep your deal. But they're gonna try everybody because even some of us who we might never expect. I mean, I know he'll never sell out. You would be surprised. So they gotta see. You know, and you're right, bro. It's a situation where they just really, they know what moves us. They know what controls us. And if they got a card on you in any kind of way, they hold that card until they ready to pull it out and slam it on the table on you. And then they give you another chance to make a decision. That's why they humiliate so many of our brothers who do stand up and speak out. They speak out strong and bold, and then in 2 or 3 days after the backlash, now they making apology videos. You see what I'm saying? Because somebody has gotten to them and made them aware of what they stand to lose based on the stand that they took. And so you see people backing off of 100% pure truth. It's like, man, everything you said was true. Now all of a sudden, you backing off that statement because you looking at what they're gonna take from you.
Yeah. And they go to show you how much lack of control that they have. It's like just because they got millions and millions don't mean they have the leverage. Now you gotta look at the people who sign their checks and who sponsors them.
Man, that's right, bro. That's absolutely right. You got it's like in sports, it's billionaires paying millionaires. So yeah. They gave you $30 million a year. Yeah, they did that. But if a person can give you $30 million a year, what are they worth? What are they able? What do they have? See, it's like that's the point. So they don't. That's money that that's a drop in the bucket to them. So they understand that. You know, like, man, you're nobody. You're nobody because if the devil makes you, he can break you. So he knows how to puppet string his Negroes. He knows how to do that, plain and simple. And money is usually the tactic that's used, but also fear is one of the tactics that are used as well, because you hear about so many situations with women as far as, like, you know, the casting couch and the things that they have to do to get on and all that, but they doing the same thing to these brothers out here. You know, you got these sick, perverted Jews, old Jews, they molesting grown men in the auditions. They groping grown men in the auditions, you know, and they tolerating that. So if you allow yourself to be subjected to that, and then you get put on after the fact, that's a card that they have on you forever now, you know. And then some of them that come out, they get brave enough to come out and speak up and speak out and bring it up. You know, the way society is set up, we turn on the brother. Like, oh man, you let that man touch on you, and that's your fault. That's your fault. And okay, to an extent it is, because you should have never let it get that far. But on the same token, once it's happened, we got to still stand in for the brother and say, well, yeah, that was messed up, brother, but we gonna defend you. Sister, we gonna defend you. We got to get past that nigger mind of when we hear something or see something that our brother or sister went through that was a little tough on them. We got to get past that point of where we either blame it on them or say that's what they get or shouldn't have did it in the first place. We got to still stand in the gap and defend and stand next to our brother or sister against that enemy, man.
Absolutely. And well, like you said, man, it's from the violence, what we spoke on earlier, the violence of black people, like you said, we inflict violence on each other so quickly, but we're not quick to defend each other. And knowing our place of where things happen and what goes on, it's imperative that we stand together as a people. Either we're going to be united or either we're united as one or we fall as individuals. And
right.
That's just how it is.
Right. I mean, what you see going on with us, bro, is a learned behavior. It's learned and it's taught and learned behavior. We learn from the enemy how to do everything it is that we're doing. Now, does that strip us of all accountability? No, it don't. Because again, like I say, we old enough to know better in a lot of cases. But a lot of things we do, we saw somebody on a higher level doing it, and we're emulating it on our little baby level. So it's learned behavior, bro. So we have to reverse the behavior within ourselves, and then we have to work to try to reverse the behavior in our people, man. And that's the best chance that we got. And it all starts with a mindset. It all starts with the changing of a mindset and the understanding of who we are. And once we get that understanding, then boom, we on the right road after that.
Absolutely. I mean, as the game goes.
Absolutely, man. Not to mention, you was one of the, and not to mention, we was talking about you being the only guy in history to have. Did you drop? Was it 10 albums a day, or was it throughout that one?
It was 7. It was seven in one day. Mm-hmm.
7 one day. Gotcha. And
yeah,
out of those,
man.
Those albums, like, what was one of your? Yeah, what was the album that you consider your personal favorite of it all?
Out of the 7, or just period, my whole catalog.
Whole catalog.
Man, that would probably be Annihilation, the Evil Machine. I put that out in 2010, and to this day, whenever somebody asks me that question, that's been the answer until I can make one that surpasses that one. Because I think I talked about everything that I could talk about on that particular album at that time. So I'm working now to try to smash that one if possible.
Most definitely, man. And we about to slowly ease things out, man, because I know you got things to do. You probably gotta jump on your podcast and give the news of the week of what's going on. We definitely enjoyed this build, and for those who are just tuning in, like, tell them where they can find you on your social media handles.
Yeah, man. You can follow me on Twitter at The Real K-Rino. My YouTube channel is The Real K-Rino. That's K-R-I-N-O. The Real K-Rino on YouTube. And that's it, man. I ain't hard to find. Just pull my name up, and somehow you'll be able to come across your big brother, man.
Definitely.
That's what it is, man. We enjoyed this build, man. And go ahead, T-Max.
Yeah, that's it. I was just saying, Legend, this has been an honor and a privilege. It was great to make this acquaintance with you for my first time, on behalf of Off the Cuff Radio, getting to, interview you. It was an honor and a privilege. Once again, to my brother King, hello, I understand, man, H and Chill. I mean, I thank y'all for bringing me in. Reno, I mean, thank you. We appreciate it.
Oh, man. Oh, man, I appreciate y'all inviting me on the platform, man. It's a pleasure. It's refreshing to be able to talk with some brothers just on a no holds barred type of level, man. So I appreciate that. A lot of these Negroes are scared to go some of the places that we went in this interview. So I appreciate y'all.
Always, man. And we definitely locked in, bro. So we're gonna definitely keep in touch, and we're gonna keep it pushing for you, man.
Yes, sir. Blessing to y'all, family. Peace and love.
Peace and love to you, man.
Always, man.
Back again. And we out.